Welcome, everybody, to the home front. This is Jeff Duden, and we are here today with Sophie Jamison. Sophie Jamison is a TikTok sensation from way back now. She started in 2019, posting 2 videos a day. By the end of 2020, she had gained 2 million followers, and then Nerf hired her as their first ever chief TikTok officer. She had success in that role. She was also the chief TikTok officer at a kitchenware brand made by Gather. And today she has her own creative agency. We're excited to learn what she's doing there. Welcome to the home front, Sophie Jamison.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's been great. And I've really enjoyed going through all of your content and listening to your interviews. I'm very excited today about what we can learn because people like me struggle to understand what we're doing wrong on TikTok and why we're not instantly viral. I mean, me watching a football game and eating Cheetos seems to be interesting, but apparently not to the masses. But anyway, Sophie, would you share a little bit, maybe some highlights of your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. I mean, you covered it super well too in the intro. So I started posting on TikTok back in 2019 because of the COVID pandemic. So came home from college. That was my only aspiration at the time, was get into this dream school, and then got sent home to be online anyway. Picked up the camera, picked up the iPhone camera, and was like, instead of consuming content, I'd love to just try to make it. If you scroll back, those videos were horrible. Probably even less interesting than just watching a football game and eating some snacks. But it was that 2 videos a day, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, and just really testing and seeing what would work and perfecting the craft as much as possible. It was a lot of YouTube tutorials, a lot of learning, and a lot of deleting those videos once I finally kind of figured it out.
Any unboxing videos?
Oh, back in the day, yep.
What did you unbox?
Nerf blasters, of course. So all the
Oh,
content was about Nerf blasters. I had them lying around. It was something I loved. I love the preparation right there. That's the
yeah.
N series.
I walked out of my office for this podcast and I got smacked in the side of the head with this today. So
I think
it
that's
seemed,
that's the brand new award. Pretty
is
new
it?
blaster, yeah.
How does
N
it work?
series. Yep, you pull it back, pull the trigger,
Oh,
one dart at a time.
oh, geez, it's got a lot of pop.
They've come a long way.
It's got a lot going. Oh yeah.
And that, I
Cool.
mean, that's on the weaker category too of things.
Sorry, Jen. Anyway, off we go. So you're doing all that. You're doing all the kinds of videos that I watched my 20-year-old watch over the years, unboxing videos, product videos, just all of that kind of stuff. So you're all into it. And oh, by the way, you were playing soccer at the time, no?
Yeah, so I had just gotten a blood diagnosis of von Willebrand, so it's a blood clotting disorder, so I couldn't play contact sports anymore. And I'm not even gonna lie, I was a very good goalkeeper, so that was a challenging time for me. So that's
Okay,
another reason why I picked up the Nerf blasters. Can't paintball or airsoft, but those are just quite not powerful enough to leave a bruise, so they were the
got
perfect
it.
solution.
Awesome. And Nerf did they ran an ad for a chief TikTok officer, which was probably the first of its type.
It was the
Um,
world's first, yeah.
and it came across your screen. And how did you react to that?
Oh my, I will never forget that. I got an email from my PR rep at Nerf and was like, "Oh, we're doing this," and then it was like what I imagine is like getting drafted to the NFL or something. Just constant ringing on the phone of people calling me and being like, "Nerf just put this out. You have to apply. You have to do this." My optometrist called me. My like old 8th grade school teacher, like people I didn't even know had my number, were sending me this and saying you need to apply. And I was like, I've already applied. Like, we're good. I got it covered. Don't worry. And then, yeah, applied by making a TikTok, which was cool, and then had a formal interview. And I'll never forget this either. They called me a couple hours later, and they're like, "Can we FaceTime you? We just have to ask you a question, like we forgot to ask during the interview." But it was actually to tell me that I got the job. And they screen recorded that video, which I'm still like, please delete that wherever it is, because I just started crying on the spot because I was that excited.
That's fantastic. So you're how old were you at the time?
19. 19.
Okay, and you go into corporate and you're dealing with who? Who's in
Yeah.
who's in the room?
Yeah, so it's the whole marketing team all the way up to the chief marketing officer. I'm working directly with like kind of an associate marketer, head of social type of position.
Okay. And they're staring at you saying, Jamison makes some magic, basically.
It was pretty. It was actually pretty chill at first. It was we love what you're doing, keep doing it, and do it for our channel. But then after, so it was a temp 3 month position, and after the 3 months, they extended it to be like a year-long contract, and that's when there was definitely a lot more pressure. This is no longer just like a press grab that we have the chief TikTok officer. It's really go and excel in this position, find influencers, work with them, copyright, plan out the calendars. So the level of responsibility really increased after those 3 months.
Did that position become more of a regular staple inside of consumer facing brands after that?
Yeah, without that title, without the press grabbing title, absolutely that type of position is now pretty commonplace.
Okay. And you did a similar position at Kitchen Maid.
Yeah, Made by Gather. So they have a Drew Barrymore's Beautiful by Drew Walmart
Oh,
collection. So it was quite different from Nerf blasters, air fryers. It was a good time though.
good. So, content on TikTok, uh, very raw, very real, underproduced type content did well. Obviously, it all started with people just dancing and all of
Lip
that.
syncing, yeah.
How has the platform evolved, and how have more commercial focused um, uh, businesses been able to take advantage of it?
Yeah, I mean it's a completely different app than when it started, and it is definitely becoming incredibly useful on marketing teams. I always say that you're missing out. It's going to become table stakes if you're not on TikTok. It's equal to not being on Instagram, which has become, I feel like almost every brand at least has an Instagram presence. So that front of it, the ability to just reach this incredibly large, untapped group of possible consumers and people who are engaging with your content is nothing that we've seen on a different platform. Just that one video really can reach these exceptionally high view counts, and the algorithm is just really, really intelligent when it comes to placing the correct content on the right feeds. It's really special, and it's also really changed how brands show up in a lot of ways. They do get to be that more real, less produced, a bit more cynical, silly, a type of content where we feel a little bit more humanized and can connect with the brand on a different level, which I think is so important, and is just going to become continually more prevalent. We see it on X, formerly known as Twitter, right now. A lot of brands being as trying to be as relatable as possible, and that's just going to continue to grow.
In terms of audience size versus Instagram and X and other platforms, where does TikTok rank right now?
Yeah, I mean it's right up there, right? They're all super similar. It's more, in my opinion, the amount of content that's being consumed on the app, the amount of time spent on it, which is higher than these other platforms. And then of course that algorithm, like the ability to send content more towards people, because typically you're not even seeing the people that you follow as content, whereas Instagram, that's primarily what's showing up on your page. You're
Mm.
seeing completely new people and completely new content every single time you swipe, pretty much. So just the limit of discovery is non-existent.
And what do you mean by towards people?
Where did I use it?
So you said the ability to send content towards
Oh
people
yeah,
on TikTok is different, and I haven't heard that before.
yeah.
Usually, you're trying to attract people to watch your stuff. Maybe you're doing some paid to try to serve it up to people, and I don't know if that's what you mean on TikTok, or is it something different?
Yeah, I mean, I just always think about it different. You can go and you're going to make a video that you're trying to get served to certain people, but there's also this wild card factor where the algorithm knows, like, at some point in that video, if it's a skit, maybe they've never ever interacted with the product, but if they consume skit content regularly, it's still getting sent to them.
Okay,
So that's kind of what I meant. Yeah.
got it. And then rules around what makes great content. If I had a company today or a small business, what would the template look like for me? How often would you tell me to post? How would you tell me to make it? What types of things would we want to post around? And give me some guidelines.
I love that question. So for TikTok, I would do 3 to 5 posts a week. The more, the merrier. But there's this expectation right now of that 2 a day, which unless you really can support it and every time you're putting out a video it's quality, if you're just putting it out to hit a certain number, that's a terrible strategy. So really prioritizing quality over quantity, but still hitting, that 3 to 5 versus 1 to 2 a week. The first 3 seconds of your video are the most important. That's pretty true to all social, but especially on TikTok. They are already scrolling by the time you start talking or by the time your video begins. So you have to basically get them to stop what they're doing and remain on the content. That's how quickly people are scrolling through. So that initial hook is incredibly important. Learning from every single video. It's going to differ for each brand. The audience that's viewing that content is different for every single piece of content. So looking at the analytics at 5 seconds in, we lost 70% of viewership. What did I do? Did I look away from the camera? Did I pose a question and they didn't respond well to the question? What did the frame cut and we're in a new environment and they didn't like the environment? So it's learning as much as you possibly can from each video, and then engaging with that community. I would say, reply to as many comments as possible, listen to what they're saying. If they suggest a video, that's not bad. That's not like stealing from them. Give them credit and make that video if a lot of people are asking for it. Like some of my most successful content has been completely from the fans. Here's what we want to see. Here's our favorite content. Like, please post this more, and really listening and using that. And then trends are another one. I see a lot of brands, that's their entire social strategy. Please don't do that. You cannot force a trend into every single product that you have. It's just not going to work. I like to do one trend bi-weekly, but it's super rough. It depends on what's going on and if it relates. If you're really trying too hard, people will know. That's my biggest piece of advice. Don't try too hard to be relatable. Don't try too hard to be trendy because people are going to call you out. So just be authentic and real. And yeah.
Okay, so I had hooks and trends as categories of things that I wanted to talk about. So we talked about hooks. I do have some, maybe let's go back to that.
Yeah.
First 3 seconds of a video. So on this podcast, something that we watch very closely is, initial duration. How long do people listen before they start dropping off? Now, we understand that the shorts are important because I might just be running out for lunch and I've got 7 minutes to get to where I'm going to lunch. So I'm going to look for a piece of content to consume in the car that's going to be a short. I'm not going to load up an hour and 11-minute podcast. I mean, we have hour and 46-minute podcasts. So, those have their purpose. But whatever we put out there that we expect people to try to listen all the way through or fit into some sort of a gap, like we understand, like it needs to be good right away. If I pull up a piece of content on YouTube or Instagram or anything, and if it doesn't immediately grab me, then I'm going away from it. And now you do have the ability in the title to create some sort of a FOMO, like, oh, this is what I'll give. If something has a good hook in the title, I'll give it a little bit more time to get to it if I want to do that. But so how long is the average TikTok? Like what's a length of a TikTok?
20 to 30 seconds is really what the majority are.
Okay. So you got 20 or 30 seconds. The first 3 seconds has to get them to invest in the last 30 seconds of it. And to your point, there's all kinds of reasons that people lose interest in a piece of content. And so in terms of those hooks, like you gave us a couple of great examples, people looking away from the camera. What are some other things that absolutely need to happen in that first 3 seconds? What are your goals for that first 3 to 5 seconds?
Yeah, great question. So it's framing up what those next 30 seconds are going to entail. Most importantly,
Okay.
It's here's what I can expect. So whether that's through the title or through the opening, conversation, copy sometimes too can be really helpful on that. If they're getting bored, maybe you can grab another couple seconds for them to read your caption, and then it will re-engage them into the video. So just really framing what's about to happen and then getting to the point as quickly as possible. You can use, there's tips and tricks. Fast transitions are always great, like cutting between, but sometimes that's just not the type of audience that you want to reach. Or, we're working, if you're, targeting older generations, typically that's less actually of a reason for them to stay. Whereas a younger generation, they really want to see those fast cuts. So it's so much more about storytelling, original content. If it's something that I've already seen somebody do a million times, there's no reason for me to watch it again. If I've already seen a bunch of brands do it, if I already know what's happening. So you have to give them something, whatever it may be, entertainment, knowledge, information.
Right.
There has to be something that they can scroll away and say, I gained this from that video. And it can be a laugh. It can be entertainment. I was thoroughly engaged for 30 seconds. Or it can be a fun fact or a new product that they want to try or information. But making sure that you frame the video properly and then give them what you framed up is really important.
Got it. And so I'm trying to think about this. If I'm have a specific business goal, are some clips that you're going to put up, what do you call them? Talks or ticks?
Never.
Did I just show you my age? So
That was great.
Okay, some are going to be for reach, right? This is entertaining. It's funny. Somebody smacked into a wall and the crazy thing happened and blah, blah, blah. And that's going to be something that people are going to share. They're going to watch probably more than once because it was really interesting and really cool. So there's just like reach there. The other side of it is like, well, at what point do we get to product education? And how do we okay, so what? These people showed me this really funny video, but what's the point to the business inside of that? So do you break it down into categories where you say, well, this one's going to be for reach, this one's going to be for engagement, this one's going to be liked, shared, or whatever, and then here's one, or do you have to try to get it all in a single piece of content?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So I think the majority of the time for myself, and this, that influencer marketing of incorporating product, that's what I got Forbes 30 under 30 for. So this is my area where I love talking about this. So typically it's in the back of my mind, right? So you want to try to hit as many boxes as you can, give people different reasons to remain on that video. But a lot of times what will happen is we'll have an influencer who is already making content, and then we want to seamlessly integrate a product and that product knowledge into the video to the point where people are commenting, I didn't even know this was an ad. This didn't even feel like an ad. So if we're trying to push something like link in bio, that's going to be a little bit of a different, we're going to have a call to action in there. But the video itself still needs to feel authentic to the channel and not like they were just paid to do it. Not like they kind of sold their soul in that situation. So
Sure.
It has to relate to the creator who's doing it as well. And so for me, Nerf blasters, I'm not going to go do leggings. That's the amount of legging requests I get is crazy. So I'm not going to do clothing really on my channel, but I'm going to do other blaster brands, that type of thing. And then when you're doing it from a brand perspective, if I'm in-house creating that content, I'm definitely thinking, is this one for reach? Then we're going to definitely form it out a little bit differently. What are they gaining from this? But at the end of the day, it should be pretty similar and still follow those core beliefs.
So it's like reach, trust, education. Those would be some things, some boxes that you want to check on that. All right.
Engagement,
well, okay. Yeah. So let's play a game here. We have a fencing brand called Top Rail Fence.
Okay.
And if I was going to say that we're going to really focus on that brand for TikTok, then I would have fencing accidents. I would have people driving through fences. I would have people falling in holes. It would be, here's the way to, an interesting way to put in a fence pole or something like that. But something that's going to be okay, that's pretty cool, but it's clearly going to be in and around fencing, and it's going to be to try to grow that channel. And then once we have the channel growth, you can maybe, do you change the concentration of educational and product focused stuff because now people have trust of that channel and they're going to give you a little bit more time? What's the strategy there to take a new brand that's not currently big on TikTok in any way, and then say, all right, it's going to be a 6-month, 8-step, market launch? Am I over the target here?
No, yeah, it's going to be a sprint, you're going to go for it. So to begin,
Okay.
you're going to post as much content as you possibly can that's still remaining quality. But you're going to try as many things as possible. So if it's a fence, we're going to try skits. We're going to try ASMR. We're going to try instructional videos. We're going to put up those compilations of...
What do you mean by ASMR? Is that like combing the hair of the fence?
Or installing the fence. I'm sure that there's some nice like
Oh,
woodworking
okay.
noises, or some type of like talk show style, like between the fence with my neighbor, play into those
Oh,
types of things.
okay.
Skits, I always love to do, like bring a sense of humor into it, or like my
Yeah.
fence is better than your fence, that type of thing.
Okay,
And
so
then
there's a lot of creative. Like this is heavy creative.
absolutely. That's how you're going to stand out. The occasional trend sprinkled in there, the occasional, pretty baseline, but then as creative as possible.
Okay, so let's go to trends. When I heard you talk about trends on another podcast, so an example of a trend would be, and you said it's like if you don't hit it in the first 24 hours, you might as well not do it. So there's some video or something people are doing that has nothing to do with your product, and it's just going bananas. And then so sometimes what I'll see is there'll be a piece I'll want to see something, and I'll keep seeing it, but I recognize it's on all these different people's channel.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm liking it, but I'm liking it on their channel. It wasn't their piece of content. Is that an example of a trend?
Yeah,
Or use of a trend?
yeah.
What like practically walk me through like how you use a trend.
Yeah, definitely. So that earliness is super important, getting on top of it as quickly as possible. And sometimes it's predictive even. This is something that it's going to trend. And a lot of times it's either a trending audio or just something completely random. It's usually like this random person posting a TikTok and then all of a sudden it does really well. That's how the whole very demure, very mindful trend came about. And then, so you see that instantly and then you bring it internally and you say, can I make this fit into a brand? And the very demure, I think, is a great example because that can be form fitted into almost any piece of content, even with fences. You could be like, look at my beautiful blue fence, very demure, very mindful, like that type of content.
Got it.
So
Now,
yeah.
are we targeted at people, or are we targeted at the algorithm? Because the algorithm's going to pick up on the trend and serve it more.
Both. Absolutely. Great point. Yeah. So the algorithm's going to serve it, and then it's your job to keep them. And if it's a trend, like you're saying, that one, we like to see how it fits. Probably going to watch a couple of that same type of trend style, even if it's with different brands, even if it's the same kind of concept.
Got it. This is, it's not free because time, energy, and production and all this type of stuff, but it seems very cost effective. Talk to me about the use of dollars. Like is there a lot of boosting? Is the boosting something that is like, well, if you can get it organically, then that's always going to be better. But you can maybe buy your way into play, or how does that work on TikTok?
Yeah. So this one grinds my gears sometimes. You can't force it. You can't force it. I don't care how many times you throw something in people's face. If they don't want to watch it, they're not going to watch it. So I always say if it's performing above benchmark of the channel, then that's performing well organically, in my opinion. Then we can talk about putting paid behind it because we know that once people see it, they're engaging with it and watching it. So if we have a video that has a 20% engagement rate, that's great. I want to send that out to people. I want to continue that conversation. But I'm not going to put out a video, even if I love it, right? Even if I love it, if it's not performing well, I'm not going to just throw money at it and kind of hope and pray for the best. A lot of times what that money is actually going towards is the user-generated content or in-house content creators. So to come and make that content or to repurpose it. And I also love, influencer collaborations as well. So it's always a good combo, a little media mix. But yeah, never boost something that just because you want to put out for a campaign. Like if we're doing a campaign for a product launch, I'm making 5 or 6 videos and then seeing which one performs best and then putting spend behind it.
Got it. That makes all the sense in the world. It's a little bit counterintuitive because if you're producing crap content, but you want it to do well, right? You're like, well, maybe if I show it to more people, they'll like it. But that's not the case. You're basically just putting it in people's face, and they're saying, we still don't like this, and
and now we're annoyed.
Yeah, thanks. Now we're annoyed, and
Yeah.
thanks for the nickel.
Yeah.
When you engage with an influencer, are we paying these people like lump sums? Are we saying we'll do this together and then we're going to boost it, or some combination of lots of different, or I guess it could even be some back end, right? If there's a product sale or something with it, there could be rev share or something like that. Probably all those different ways.
Yeah, that's all over the place. So many different ways to activate an influencer, but I am incredibly passionate about respectable pay for influencers and understanding their value to the company. Especially, coming from that side myself, I still work with brands on pretty large deals for my personal channel. So it's respecting those creators enough to pay them what they're worth upfront. Commission is great, but it should never just be commission. It should never just be product. They're actively working on something. They know what they're doing, so trust them. I hate briefs. Please do not write an influencer script ever. You are not them. Like, you cannot do it as well as them.
Okay.
And always pay them at least even $50 if they're a micro creator, but just give them something.
Yeah, that makes sense. We we are here on the home front. We've had different sponsorship opportunities. We haven't taken them. We don't want to promote something that we don't use. We have a real purpose for what we're doing. It's really to support our franchise owners, to create reach inside of that, so that and there's a real race for technology in the home services space. So if I can get an owner, a founder of a really cool piece of technology onto the podcast, it helps us get that deal done with them. So there's that. Also, national accounts. If there's people that, can give all of our franchise owners some work and we need to work our way into that organization, we can generally get an introduction. But if you can get somebody on the podcast and we spend an hour together, the whole relationship just goes better and farther. And then, of course, just exposing, as we're developing reach inside of this, then as we bring all of our brands forth and be able to start doing some of the things like you're talking about there, it just all, but like we're very much in laying the foundation with trying to create credibility, know, like, and trust, and those types of things right now. But the other side of it is, to your point, it's, there's a way to do this, and there's a way to go right at it. So, we're trying to figure out, how to take the success that we've had here and evolve that, and each platform, fortunately or unfortunately, they're all at different life cycles. They all have different ways that you need to approach them. People are in ways to be successful on them.
Hey, I think that's fortunately. That's that's way more fun. Way bigger of a puzzle to solve. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So TikTok specifically, key numbers that you look at. I know that I know what our numbers are on YouTube and Instagram and all of that, but what are, other than view duration, what are some of the key things that you look at to evaluate a TikTok account? Did you evaluate our TikTok account before you came on?
I did not. I should have. Okay. I could have
got a whole. It would have taken a long time, I tell you that. I mean, there's literally dozens of views on that channel. But what do you look at?
I've been in the trenches with social audits recently, so I should have jumped on yours. All
right. But send me a note. Let me know what you think.
We're looking at engagement rate first and foremost. That's the most important thing to me. Are they liking, sharing, and commenting on this video? Are they engaging with it, or just passively consuming it and then scrolling? The vanity metrics are always such a point of contention. The views and the follower count, they matter, absolutely, but they should not be the end all be all. At the end of the day, also focusing on what makes the brand happy and what makes the person making the content happy. I always like to just point that out too. If you have a really viral series, but it is kind of painting your brand in a bad light or something you don't enjoy doing, if you're a creator, you don't have to just submit yourself to that. You can always find another solution and another piece of content that performs well. And also that view count, maybe it just got luckily picked up by the algorithm. It's getting sent out, but then if nobody's commenting on it, then it's really not doing much for you. Follower count, of course, matters. That's people that are, committed to seeing what else you're putting out and maybe learning more. That's going to be the people that you're going to have conversations with. They're going to be commenting on your posts. I also really like commenting in general and then looking at the likes of the comments. So sometimes, I'll go leave a witty comment. There's this rapper. I am absolutely every single post he has a bejeweled, that's the worst word possible, but he has a diamond Nerf blaster necklace. So
Oh,
those always get so many likes, those comments. If I go on a Sophie Lightning and say like, you stole my necklace or something like that. And then when those are getting 50,000 likes, that's also translating into follower count. So seeing, engaging with other community members and seeing how those posts perform, being witty in that angle. Shares are the most important metric for the TikTok algorithm. So if someone is sharing your post to a friend, it's also a huge compliment. If you really think about what that really means, it means I enjoyed this so much that I want to share it with someone else. That's the highest praise I feel like you can get as a creator. So that's a fantastic metric to look at. And just making sure that I just want to nail this into people. Make sure that it's content that you enjoy too. That's like the most important metric. Don't post a video if you personally wouldn't watch it unless it's for a completely, we're talking an extreme brand example or something like that. But most of the time, like if it's not something you would consume, then who else is going to consume it?
Yeah, we learned that lesson on the podcast. And I think there's a lot of AI tools out there and they're saying, hey, create, well, you see it, right? Hey, create 100 pieces of content a day using this AI tool. And, we had various, it was weird kind of getting our feet underneath us on the podcast. We had various partners and outsources and things like that. And, hey, look, we can edit the whole podcast and create a bunch of shorts using this AI tool. We would look at these things and it'd be like, yeah, I mean, there's complete sentences, but it makes no sense. And we chose to go with a smaller number of releases, but things that we actually curated ourselves that were interesting to us. And we're fortunate to have talent on the team to be able to do the editing and to create the clips. They're more underproduced than they used to be, so they don't have all the bells and whistles and things going across them. But it's like, this is an interesting piece. So, and it changed. We started marching right up the hill when we focused on just quality over quantity inside of the podcast. Now, one thing we did learn too, and I'm interested in your thoughts on that is, and this took a while. I was actually in a marketing mastermind and everybody in there had a podcast for a long time. And they said, we gave up on new customer acquisition through the podcast because you can't attribute it really. But so they say we're not using it for converting new people as customers, but it's very effective for convincing people. No. So not converting, but convincing. And you see things all the time on social media where, hey, click in the link in the bio and get your free $97 offer to this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, okay, that would be, if I was interested in that, I would probably click there. Do you have an opinion on that? Are your more successful TikTok channels for like small consumer KitchenAid, right? Small consumer purchases, I would assume. I don't know what the main products were in the Made by Gather.
Yeah, air fryers.
I mean, yeah, air fryers. Like this thing, I don't know what this thing cost. I am holding up a Nerf.
That's $9.99.
$9.99. Okay, so like it's more to remind me that, or to convince me that, oh, I've got a kid's birthday coming up, and I'm definitely just now that I've seen people getting shot with Nerf guns in all different ways, I'm definitely gonna be buying 8 Nerf guns for the party, right? I mean, I think that's it.
Yeah. And this is another constant battle in this area is, okay, but how many blasters did you sell? Like, this is great, but how many did you sell? And you have to realize that it's just a different purpose, and it's a very important purpose as well. Like,
sure,
if somebody's in the aisle and they're actively about to purchase an air fryer, I want them to remember that video and say, I'm going to purchase Drew Barrymore's air fryer because of that TikTok. That's not something you could never measure that. And that's what affects a lot of people's decisions, especially like a regular consumer in the aisle. They're going to remember that one TikTok video and know that this Nerf blaster Sophie Lightning approves of. That's great. But chances are they're not ready to buy a Nerf blaster when they're scrolling on TikTok in their bed and they see that video.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're not going to buy something you've never heard of. If you are going to buy something you never heard of, it's because you're in the aisle, there's 2 air fryers there and you have to pick one. Yeah. So now you're going to read the box. And you might pull your phone out and go and look at reviews, which would be reasonable for somebody to do, but you're giving them home, like the box is giving them homework to do right there, where if I recognize the one, hey, man, if I'm looking for an indoor grill and I see a George Foreman, I'm buying it. I've always wanted one. I've just never had the opportunity to really have a need for one. But if I get an indoor grill, I'm getting a George Foreman grill,
Yeah,
and for sure.
You made a great point there, because my generation, we're not looking at reviews. We're not going on Amazon in that aisle. We're going on TikTok and searching that product name. So
Really?
if there's a video with 10 million views, even if it's completely silly, if it's using that product, then chances are I'm going to be like, oh, this is the air fryer I should purchase. So just getting that awareness can then affect people's decisions later on.
Wow. Who knew? All right. So
on that note,
I'm just letting that soak in.
I know. It's crazy. I haven't Googled something in a very long time.
Really?
Yeah.
It still works. All right, so let's move into obviously deep expertise inside of the platforms that we're talking about here. But you created Lightning Media, and Sophie Lightning was your channel. That was your online name. I read somewhere that it was that you got that nickname playing soccer.
Wow, deep research, yeah.
Yeah, deep research. I went to TikTok.
Yeah, yep. It was the chant Sophie Lightning Jamison coming out.
Really?
On the field. Yeah.
How cool is that? Is there anything better than having your name called out over a loudspeaker at a sporting event?
Hitting 2 million followers was pretty nice too.
All right. Well, yeah, I guess that pays better. All right. Well, but okay. So tell us a little bit about Lightning Media.
Yeah, definitely. So it's consulting first and foremost. So social audits, you'll call me and you'll say, we have 10 TikToks on our posts. We don't have somebody here. We can't commit to hiring someone full time. We want to focus on all social. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell us what we're doing right. Help us do it. And my goal, it's almost counterintuitive, is to have them no longer need me in 6 to 12 months. Okay. Create such a well-run machine where they understand it. We're going to get them set up on some type of calendar, automatic posting, whatever they prefer. We're going to get a really nice group of UGC influencers who are going to sign for long-term contracts and basically create a content ecosystem where they don't even need someone internally creating it anymore. It's through the creators.
Wow, that's fantastic. And then, so then my question was going to be, and you kind of pre-answered it, was, what about the creative? Because, it's companies, if they have a creative in the building, you're lucky and you can't manage them. So they end up getting fired. But, right? Because they're constantly, but like, you've got to have them, especially today. So if you don't have a creative, mindset inside of the company, maybe you've got some regular, run of the mill type product and stuff like that. You can help people get the right influencers that can be creating the content on their behalf.
Absolutely. And doing that speed run trial of finding out what content. So being as creative as possible while I'm there, and then honing in on the 1 or 2 episodic pieces of content that perform well, that I can then say, here's the baseline, now continue doing it.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm interested in a content audit across our various brands, so we can deal with that offline if you have availability. And then what other kind of stuff? And is that the main focus of what you're doing right now? Are you staying pretty narrow in that niche, or what's your vision for Lightning Media?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had a really great answer for you. I have approached everything in life with a very open mind. So kind of just going in and seeing what exactly the brand really needs and then form-fitting it to them versus just saying, here, pay me X amount of money and I'll make 12 posts and do a social audit and call it a day. So if we go in and they're crushing on TikTok, but they really need help on Instagram Reels, bam. Or if they have a really good time, like this is a perfect example of podcast, getting raw footage, and they need someone to go in and cut those pieces and add captions and make it engaging, I'll go and do that. So it's everything from content creation to influencer to data analyst to paid media if need be. And then I've been doing also some strategic creative work for agencies. So coming up with influencer campaigns saying, here's the product, here's the video, now go do it. And that has been some really, really fun work and great experience as well.
Fantastic. Do you have a sense of where the next big blue ocean's going to be in terms of social media, new platforms, or just new user opportunities outside of the existing platforms that exist today?
Yes, I don't think it exists yet. That's my firm answer. Is sometimes there'll be a sleeper app that will suddenly take off. It's been out for a while. I don't think it's published yet. It's absolutely
Okay.
going to incorporate artificial intelligence. There's
All
just
right.
no escaping that.
So what I'm thinking is that is you're promoting lightning.com, which is the next platform made by you. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe we'll see. No, but yeah, artificial intelligence. If you are not learning up on that right now, you are going to
Yeah.
be missing out. That's kind of just like TikTok in 2019. If you weren't, figuring that out, you can still figure it out later, but it's so much better to just get in it early while it's still developing. And I use AI from everything, from make this copy sound better, to ooh, at 5 seconds, what should I say? And of course, taking it with a grain of salt, but it can be a really, really helpful asset. Also for social auditing too, it can go through your content and give you you have this weird thing where every 10 seconds into your video, you do a weird cut. Like, you should stop doing that. And it's a type of pattern that I personally would have never picked up on.
Got it. Do you have some favorite platforms? I know you don't want to give away all of your tools in your toolkit, but do you have some that, 2 or 3 that people should really consider using if they're not right now?
Yeah, so if you're, posting on TikTok, filming on your phone is perfect, and then using CapCut. CapCut is a great free editing app. You can get the premium trial, but they're actually integrated with TikTok, so this is not proven, but it's pretty much proven that TikTok will prefer you or favor your content if you use CapCut to edit. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal because it's a great editing platform, but then also you're kind of getting, a 1 or 2% boost in the algorithm just for using it. ChatGPT, of course, is great. I'll always just throw a copy in there and say, please make this sound better.
Yeah.
And then really just studying the platforms themselves. That's what I spend a lot of time doing, is scrolling on TikTok, but trying to be as intentional and conscious as possible while doing it.
Have you started using Perplexity AI at all?
I've yes, a little bit.
You've dabbled
Yeah.
in it. I find it to be I like it. I like it for certain purposes.
Yeah.
If I was going to say, hey, give me 10 questions if I'm interviewing Sophie Jamison, what would 10 questions? It does good in areas like that. But yeah, we use chat. I'll come in and lay down 30 or 35 minutes of nonsense, and then we'll transcribe it, and then we'll put it in chat and clean it up. It won't catch everything that I think is important, so we might have to go back and insert some concepts or some keywords or things like that. But then we can basically load that into a teleprompter, and I can run that, and it probably cuts it down to 5 to 10 minutes, but it's clean, and it takes out all of my thinking and all of the nonsense and stuff like that. So we'll do that sometimes. Other times it's good just to, if it's tight, just go with it in its raw form, or take cuts of it and go with those raw cuts of it there. But it's definitely a game, because it's, as again, you're trying to do things efficiently, but if you efficiently make garbage that nobody wants to hear or see, then you're just wasting your time. It's really an art. It's a great mix of art and science. So, but people that grew up in that generation, they have a real sense for what's good content and what they will just discard quickly. So you got to have, if you're a company out there and you've been doing cabinets, or you've been doing plumbing, or you've been doing electrical for all this time, I see those people trying to make this stuff, and it looks like old people trying to make stuff.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's just not right. It's almost right, and it's a good try, but it's just not, it takes a lot of work to get it there. But I also think there's a real feel to it.
Yeah, like you absolutely know that they're trying to do something that's maybe not comfortable for them.
Yeah. And I see the things that I watch 2 or 3 times, and then I'll stop myself and I'll take, I'm death scrolling like I shouldn't be. And then I'll look at it and I'll be like, okay, why did I watch that 3 times?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why did I wait? And it's like, oh, because they put the words in here at this point, but they disappeared just so quick enough that I had to watch it again to read the second half of the thing. but there was something interesting. There was a
Yeah.
penguin falling down on the ice while I was doing that. So, or what, what
Your whole feed is just people falling, huh?
well, yeah, actually, yeah. It's I signed up for the Three Stooges plan on Instagram, and it's just people getting hit with pans and things. But
That's a reference I get maybe 5%. So
okay, well, sorry. Exactly. Isn't that what we're talking about, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Just 95% of my audience wouldn't get my Three Stooges reel that I posted. And the 5% that would are actually over on Facebook. But so, all right. Well, Sophie, this has been a lot of fun. It's been actually a good, this has been fun.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you care to talk about, or anything else that you'd like to let our audience know? Any advice, any final words?
Yeah, I think just at the end of the day, burnout is super prevalent in this industry, especially in that creative role, whether you're the person making the content or just working on a marketing team. So I'm trying to nail this into you as hard as I possibly can, which is make content that you enjoy. At the end of the day, making content is a dream job in a lot of ways, and it should be fun. People can tell if you're not having fun in the video. So whether that's you're the plumber and you need to hire somebody part-time to come make the content for you, or you're a content creator and you need to take a step back and really focus on content that you enjoy. At the end of the day, make sure that it's true to you and it's true to your brand. If you're an influencer, really, really think about brand deals. That's the biggest piece of advice I wish I had when I first got started. There are some very questionable brand deals I took at the beginning just because I was excited to be there. So to be really, really intentional with everything that you do if you're a content creator, for sure.
Nice. Great advice. Last question for you, a little more broad. If you had one sentence to make an impact in somebody's life, what would that be? Or phrase?
I would probably just say, stay true to who you are and never do it quietly. That's how I've gotten successful, and I know it's super broad, but nobody ever would have thought, that random kid playing soccer was going to play with Nerf blasters, which would then lead to the Forbes list and all these things, and that's just by being myself. So
I think that's perfectly said.
Thanks.
Thank you for being on.
Thank you.
This has been Sophie Jamison here with me, Jeff Duden, and we have been on the home front. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.